What's up, guys? Welcome back to Elizabeth Elaborates. I'm Elizabeth. I've never done a book to movie review situation before, but we're going to do that today because I read The Goldfinch about a year ago, and the year has been great. I forgot about it. It was great. I was cruising, I was happy, and I watched this movie, and it just brought back all the trauma blocking that has happened, all the repressed emotions, all the negativity that I felt towards this. And I'm not saying that the book is not good or the movie is not good. They're great, honestly. Did I enjoy them? Not so much. I don't want to summarize the book, and I'm not going to summarize the movie. Again, we're talking about The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt and the movie The Goldfinch. And I'm not a big, I have to watch the movie, I have to read the book. Like, if it happens, it happens. But I'm not on, some big quest to do that. But I'm not going to summarize the book. I'm not summarizing the movie. Because if you Google The Goldfinch, you're going to get that from 5,000 other channels. So I'm just here to share my thoughts. Let's have a little sit-down chat about it. Imagine you just ask your friend, hey, did you watch that movie? What'd you think? That's this video. Okay, so just enjoy the ride. And I'm not sure what's the best way to go about this in terms of organizing the video, but I'm gonna just start with the characters because that was a really big thing for me when I watched the movie. Wasn't planning on making a video, just started taking notes because, again, it was like bringing back all these feelings that I'd forgotten, all these memories. Because you read a book, you know what it's about, you love it, and then you forget a lot of the details, and sometimes you don't even realize how much you forget. But I spent a lot of time reading this book, and it's one of my best friend's favorites. So we've had some good talks about it. But let's start with some characters. This is kind of like a swipe right, swipe left thing for me as I watch the movies. It's like, do I approve of how the producer and the cast match the book? Because if I read the book first, I have very strong imaginations of how I picture characters and what they're like, their little mannerisms, and how they sound, how they speak. So that's one thing I struggle with a little bit when I watch the movies is it's just such a drastic change. So in some sense, I think watching the movies first is better for me, but in a lot of ways it's not. Hobie. Hobie is the star of the show, in my opinion. He is the most lovable character to me. And when Hobie came onto the screen, I was like, who is that? I do not know this man. Hobie, in my opinion, as I read this book, he is the calm in all of this storm, in all of this chaos. He is stalwart. He is there. He doesn't move. He doesn't change. And he just has this old grandpa type of thing for me where he's just I picture him kind of small, super wrinkly, hunched back. And I don't even know if I'm listening to the descriptions in the book at this point. I don't remember if my imagination was fueled by description or if I just went and ran with it. But to me, he's really like a grandpa old man. And this Hobie, he's way too young. And he's also way too American. I don't know why I pictured Hobie. Again, I don't know if it's a description or not. I pictured Hobie from a different country, different accent. Maybe English isn't his first language. I just pictured him like that. And just to see this version of Hobie, I was not connecting with it at all. Moving on to Boris and his dad. I enjoyed the way these characters were portrayed. Can't get over the fact that it's Finn Wolfhard. It's just it's always going to be Finn Wolfhard no matter what. But I can't say they were badly acted. I think they were fine. And this, I guess, is just the nature of movies. So much is left out. So you don't get the depth of the characters. And one thing I think the Goldfinch was good with was having storylines even for background characters where I felt like I knew Xandra a little bit better. I knew Boris. I knew his dad. I don't know. I just felt like I had a good understanding of where those people came from and why their entrance into Theo's story matters. And in the movie, you just kind of get the point at like when they're in your story. You don't really have any of that background, like the pre or post story, whatever happened in their life. Xandra, phenomenal. Love Xandra. She was like, in my mind though, like 100 times worse. I was kind of relieved to see Xandra pictured like that, because Xandra was, I picture like barely able to walk, you know, like high out of her mind, stumbling around. Like you picked her up off the street essentially. And that's not how it was. Like his dad had dignity. Xandra was fine. She was chill. And then, I don't know. That's why I don't like this movie though, because it's like so different from how I picture it. So I get that, like, okay, it's someone's interpretation, but it's just so jarring to me. One thing that I thought was really well done was the dinner scene with Mr. Reeves, where Theo is talking to Lucius, I think his name is, and Theo has sold him a false piece of furniture. Like he sold a fake as like a true whatever artist made this piece of furniture, and Lucius is onto it, and he knows something about the painting, and they had this like really tense dinner scene. And I just thought that was so well done. Like the scene was just quiet. The camera angles were, I think I remember them just being like still shots, which was cool, because then you kind of feel like you're just like, you know, like watching a tennis tournament, like you're just going back and forth between them. Very well acted out. I like that scene. I was like, all right, this is a good scene, because so many of the other things I was like rolling my eyes. I was like, what is going on? Why are we deviating so much from the story? Another scene that was really good that comes to mind is just like any scene regarding the museum being blown up. Those were just nice. Those were just pretty scenes, like dusty, good lighting. One thing I hated about this movie was the music. The soundtrack of this movie sucked. And there was probably like a few good points, but there were so many times that I was watching the movie and I was like, you're joking right now. The music is so bad. It was so like BBC in the way the transitions were like something, it would just like freeze. Or it would be like a black screen, I feel like. There was just no storyline transition into the next thing. It was just like cut the camera, play some like new 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 new, and totally change everything that you were just at. And I was like, what is going on? Like, build the story. That's why this is like a masterpiece type of book, where it's so long and it has a great story. And then the movie is just like, all right, let's skip 100 pages. So we got to just like cut scene, add some music, and move on. And the way that those transitions would hit, sometimes you would come off of these beautiful dialogue scenes where they were performed really well. They were well written. And, you know, you wouldn't notice the music. Maybe there was no music. And you're just like, you're caught up in the moment. And then this scene just cuts. And then it's like, no, go back, come back. Like, what's going on? So that I hated. Grown Up Boris. I loved Grown Up Boris. Also, does he not look like this guy from Maleficent, this crow guy? That was all I could think about during the movie. Wow. Loved him. Sincerely loved him from the bottom of my heart. One little thing I picked up on, Kitsy and Theo are married, and they kind of decide at some point their relationship is like kind of in shambles, and they're like, no, but this is the right thing to do. Like, this looks good. This marriage looks, and this kind of what we have to do socially. So they decide to stick it out in their marriage. And Kitsy says to Theo, she goes, you don't know what it's like to be in love with the wrong person. Meanwhile, Theo is in love with Pippa for his entire life. So Theo knows what it's like to be in love with the wrong person. Cut to a few scenes later, Theo and Pippa are talking. I think they're out to dinner. And like, this scene is still fresh in your mind, where he goes, you don't know what it's like to be in love with the wrong person. And that scene's in the back of your mind. Pippa's asking about his engagement, his wedding, and she's like, well, I guess when you know, you know. And they're just staring into each other's eyes for so long, and it just crushed my soul. I was like, oh my gosh, like, the things that Theo is thinking right now must be insane, because he knows it's never going to work out with Pippa. And Pippa's like, oh, when you know, you know. And he knows it's Pippa. And meanwhile, Kitsy is like, you don't know what it's like. So, that little bit of drama was just chef's kiss phenomenal. I would say, in summary, I would say the book is better because I think I just am a book person. You need to have the length, you need to have the continuity. You will not get what the Goldfinch is about if you just watch the movie. Okay, let me be clear. You will miss out on so much storyline, so much character building, so much background, so much beauty that the movie is just such an understatement to the book. Like, if you didn't read the book, I feel like I'd be lost reading this. Wait, I said that completely wrong. If I didn't read the book, I would be completely lost watching the movie, and I would have a false understanding that I know what it's about. The movie does some like timeline changes too, which is how the book is written. Honestly, felt like it would have been better if they didn't do that, because you just are left a little bit confused, I think. Like, you just don't understand the timeline change in the way that it makes sense in the book. It doesn't make sense in the movie to me. If I'm trying to imagine having not read the book, and I had forgotten a lot of it, so I discussed this with my friend, and as I said, it's his favorite book, one of his favorite books. So I discussed it after I read it with him. It was like the day after, 2 days after I watched the movie. He was just talking about his life and his past. And Theo has a crazy life and a crazy past, right? This Theo. And it's just that, like, are we a product of our environments? How much ownership do we have of the situation? Why do we do stupid things? That influence of this, it's influence of your surroundings on you, but then it's also like your own choice to have done the things that you did. And it just is like this, it just makes sense. Maybe if you know, you know. Maybe if you read it, you get it. But those are my little thoughts about the book to movie, movie to book, The Goldfinch. And maybe we'll make this a series and I'll do some more. But for now, have a good night. I'm about to go to bed. And I'll see you on the next one.